Greetings, friends, fellow citizens, and fellow patriots, and welcome to this week's edition of the We the People Convention Weekly News and Opinion Podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski, and I'm the host of this podcast, and I'm the president of the We the People Convention organization. And this podcast and our website and our emails and our text messages and our social media and our donations to other conservative groups and individuals are all paid for through the generous donations of the donors to the We the People Convention. And we thank you, those of you who do donate and have donated for the past 17 years to help us in our cause to protect and defend individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. So welcome to all of you, and thank you to our donors. And if you are capable, if you have the means to support our organization, please go to wethepeopleconvention.org and click on the donate link. And if you don't want to know why you should donate, click on the learn about the WTPC button to learn about the things that we've done and accomplished over the 17 years of our existence. We are so happy that you decided to join us this weekend. We hope that you had a wonderful Father's Day. We did, certainly. And as I said in my video that I put out, I prefer to call it Dad's Day because anyone can be a father. But it takes a real man to be a dad. And we were honoring and supporting the dads in our lives who really take care of their families and their wives and their children and their extended families and their communities. And I hope you had a great Father's Day weekend and celebrated that. Lots going on, some pretty big things. We're going to have some longer length videos in this podcast because there's some issues we just got to talk about. And so we're going to get to it right away because I want to have time to go into depth about some of the things you and I are thinking about and are concerned about and kind of what directions our nation are going. So, we've got to get, started with the war, of course. That's always the main topic. And, basically we have this, this memorandum of understanding, and there is traffic flowing through the Straits of Hormuz, despite an attack by the Iranian Republican Guard on one vessel. But things are going pretty well, actually. I think if you have to, if you put it in context, the fact of the matter is that at least Wall Street and the global markets and things have agreed with Trump that this thing is over for the most part. It's nothing left but the negotiations, as it were. So a trickle of marine traffic was passing through the Straits of Hormuz on Friday, despite an attack on a ship in the vital waterway a day earlier, as Iran reiterated its warnings to ships to follow Tehran's approved route. Trump says, bullcrap. That's not true. We're not doing that. You're not in control. The two sides have been engaged in public dispute over the future of the waterway as they clash over the terms of their initial deal to end the war, within Iran's intent on maintaining its leverage, while Americans and global officials insist transit must be free. At least 37 vessels have traversed the straits in the last few days and are in the process of doing so since Thursday's incident. And despite Iran's threats, 20 of those ships have taken a route far south of Iran that hugs the coastline of the United Arab Emirates. So, people are taking actions to get out of the control of the Iranians, and it's basically a matter of President Trump deciding how much he wants to push it, right? And so, what did we do last night? They attacked. They sent 4 drones at a Taiwanese cargo ship. One got through and hit the bridge. It did damage, but the ship continued on. And then Trump sent out an airstrike last night, attacking drone and missile storage sites and radar sites in Iran to retaliate. So, this is kind of going to be the process. It's back and forth, but down, the bottom line is progress is being made. And I have to share with you what I think is really what happened here. The bottom line is, when it was clear that we could not overthrow the regime in Tehran because the people could not rise up, Trump was not going to commit troops. And then two major things came into play with why now? Why did Trump, do what he's done now to, sign this memorandum of understanding and start negotiating? Well, two things. One, I do think that there's an issue about the amount of weapons we've used and that we need time to replenish our stockpiles. And we're in a bad state because we are not made to quickly make anything in the military. And Trump is trying to change that. And there's all kinds of things going on to increase the production of military weapons. Number two, there was this message from the CEO of Exxon basically saying that international reserves of oil and gas were reaching critical levels in the next couple weeks. Now, this is not the Strategic Petroleum Reserve that the United States government and other countries have. We've let some oil out of that, but this is the reserves that ExxonMobil and Shell and BP and these other companies have that are private, and they were running low. And I think that was Trump's clue that we need to shut this thing down, get the oil flowing, and make whatever deal we can. And I think that was the driver. And again, as I said, Trump's pragmatic, and he sees the elections coming, right? So what happened? All of a sudden, the price of a barrel of oil is down below what it was before the war, already below $72. The price of gasoline in the United States dropped under $4 a gallon, and I guarantee you, by election time, it'll be under $3 a gallon, okay? Trump understands that's what he has to do, and he's doing it, all right? But he also sent a message to the oil and gas companies. I don't know if you saw it, but Trump put out a message saying, don't you price gouge. You're now paying $30 a barrel less than you were paying for oil and gas. I want to see you pass this on to the consumer. He was very clear about that. So, that's kind of what's happening. Now, from my viewpoint, we always look for tells, things that are actually happening that make a difference, okay? Makes a difference. And, and this was an important piece. UN peace deal grants access to Tehran nuclear sites, UN watchdog says. This was, a very important thing in my mind, because is the nuclear inspection in the memorandum of understanding or not? Well, this week, the head of the International Energy Inspection Groups came out and said the U.S. and Iran's interim peace agreement gives inspectors from the UN nuclear watchdogs access to the Islamic Republic's nuclear sites, according to the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency. His comments came shortly after President Trump said Iran had agreed to allow nuclear inspections, despite Iran insisting there was no new plan for UN inspections. What is undeniable is that we have a memorandum of understanding. This MOU specifically indicates that nuclear part of the memorandum will be supervised. This is the word we will supervise by the IAEA. In order to supervise, we need to have the access to inspect. There is no other way. The technical work has started, and we hope to be there soon. That's what you and I wanted. That's why we attacked Iran, right? To stop their nuclear plan to build a nuclear weapon. Well, this indicates that that's happening. So that gave credibility to the fact that this memorandum of understanding isn't just BS, right? Isn't just, them stalling. Ships are flowing, oil and gas are flowing, and now this nuclear inspection is going to happen. I think that's real progress, and I think you should be excited about that. Okay, so that's the war. All right, that's the war overseas. Now let's talk about the war at home. Okay, and the war at home is what you and I have been talking about forever. The enemy is China, and China is behind the attempts to make the world communist. And so they've been funding all these groups in the United States for decades to overthrow our nation. And now it's starting to happen. And this week, everybody went bonkers because the Democratic Party was taken over by the Democratic Socialists. Well, what do we mean by that, right? Well, we mean that in the elections that happened this week in New York, moderate Democrats are sounding the alarm after massive losses in New York's primaries. They fear they are on the verge of losing the party's ideological civil war and hurting its election chances. No kidding. Leftist candidates swept a trio of deep blue House seats in New York City, a seismic victory that toppled two incumbents, including the powerful chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. And after a string of progressive battleground wins in earlier primaries, moderates are making it very clear that the left-wing streak is potentially just starting. Okay, so they're looking for other wins in Colorado, Illinois, etc. They also have more fundamental fear that progressives are becoming more mainstream as they keep winning, reshaping the Democratic Party. They've taken it over. They've taken it over. Centrist Democrats, normie Democrats, need to realize that we're insurgents, and they're the new establishment, said Lime Kerr, a co-founder of the Moderate Line Welcome Pack. It's a long-term structural problem more than it is any one particular win. Okay? Now, Jesse Waters had a great, monologue, and I'm going to play it for you now, and then we'll talk about it. It's on our website at wethepeopleconvention.org, and it'll be in our podcast page. So listen up.
Today's Democratic Party is about overthrowing Trump. Tomorrow's party is about overthrowing America. Once communists get a foothold in the party, it's over. The base is going to grab that hammer and sickle and attack anyone and everyone in their path. There's no negotiating with communism. They're here to destroy Western civilization. You heard them. They declared war. You can either fight or surrender. Spartacus already caved.
One of the things that makes the Democratic Party great is it's a big tent party. We need to stay that way. The focus has got to be the November elections.
The Democratic establishment doesn't have the stones to put down the revolution. They're already weak, and they're about to get rolled. Van Jones says book it.
The roof is collapsing on the Democratic Party establishment tonight. It's the power center for the establishment and the insurgency, and they're going head-to-head tonight. And right now, this is no longer a movement. This is a movement and a machine at the same time. There's just no way to sugarcoat this. If Mamdani pulls off a hat trick, it is a new era in Democratic Party politics.
One man, and one man only, is going to defend the wall. A hero with a hoodie.
This has just become, really, it's just been the dancing days of the dirtbag left. With some of these candidates are outrageous. You have candidates, they abolish ICE, abolish the police, abolish the border. And she even said F Kamala Harris and more of these outrageous kinds of things.
So how'd this happen? 70% of New York City, non-white. 50% don't even speak English at home. And 40% were born in another country. Democrats invited the third world into New York. And now the third world's taken over the city. They imported new voters, and the new voters are voting them out. These people want revenge. These communists are here to steal our money. They're here to steal our country. And once they take our wealth, they're going to give all their people free teeth, free boob jobs, free rent. Everything's going to be free. Buses, grocery stores, hopefully not free cable TV. You know who voted for a lot of these communists? Young, white, liberal women. That's what you called suicidal empathy. Everywhere communism gets its foot in the door, there's death, poverty, and violence.
Where has socialism ever worked, Senator?
Is that another question, or is that for the next interview?
That's definitely for you. You said fist doesn't work everywhere. I just want to know one place where socialism has been beneficial.
Well, when you have me come back on, we can talk about all the races across the country.
Okay.
Now, if you think New York's a one-off, wrong. First, you have a communist mayor and congresswoman. Then they run for higher office. Then you have a communist governor, attorney general, senator. Then communists get elected in Chicago and LA. You think they're going to sit back and relax? They're going on the warpath. They're going to arrest you, come for your business, your kids' schools. These people want to hurt you. They want to see you suffer. These are the people who get in your face in the streets, who attack cops, who tear down statues of Thomas Jefferson. They're not here to negotiate Pentagon spending. They're not going to fund the Pentagon. They're here to take everything you, your father, your father's father have earned, because colonizers don't deserve it. They claim they're the victims, and they're here to get paid, and they don't care how. But there is no way we're going to let them do that. This country did not make it 250 years to get pushed around, especially by these people. We're going to defend our history, our heritage, our property, and our values. And if New York City falls, it's dominoes. So you got to stand your ground. We're not going to apologize.
So there you have it. Are you going to defend your country, your values, our nation? Are you going to surrender to the communists? No, we're not going to surrender. And again, I'm not panicked by this. This actually helps us because we're going to use this against them, right? And I'll make that point clear. Just remember, I've said this to you over and over. We got two wars. It's just like World War II. We had to defeat the Nazis so then we could fight the communists. Well, now it's different. Now we have to defeat the communists so we can defeat the Islamists. Because Mandami's is an Islamist, right? He's not just a commie Mandami. He's an Islamist. And that's who's trying to destroy Western civilization. That's what this is a fight for, Western civilization. But listen to what Jessie said, and I'm asking you, because we don't just talk in this show, we take action to protect and defend our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity by informing our fellow citizens and making demands of our elected officials. You got to show that video clip to everybody. You know, they need to understand, as he said, they're coming for you. On my emails that you guys get, and if you don't get, go to wethepeopleconvention.org and sign up. At the end of it, I have a quote from Winston Churchill. You know, it says, "You must fight evil, for it will either kill you now or it will kill you later, but it will surely kill you." This is pure evil. These people want to rule over you. These people want to take everything from people who work hard and are successful and give it to people who don't work hard and aren't successful. Right? That's what communism is, supposedly. That's the thing. It's equity, don't you know? Not equality, equity. Right? To each, according to his needs and, that nonsense. Except it doesn't work. It's never worked anywhere. And you got to love that news guy, asking that Democrat, where's it ever worked? And she has no answer. These people are fools. We're going to expose them as fools, but we got to work hard. And here's the key, kids. In the one election, the woman in New York City, a congressional primary, there were only 7% voted. 7% voted. That's why these people won, right? Now on the page where we're doing the Jesse Waters thing, this page on our website. Let me see here. The Dem Party takeover. On this page on our website, okay, you'll see that I have this chart, which you can download. Okay, if you click on it, it'll give you a PDF, and it says Democratic Socialists of America political platform. You got to let people know what this is about. Universal suffrage, extend full voting rights to people with criminal convictions and non-citizens and the established statehood in Washington, D.C. That's just the first one. A representative Congress, replace the two-party system with a multi-party democracy through proportional representative elections, expanding the number of seats in the House of Representatives and end the Senate filibuster. Okay? Get rid of representative government. We want full democracy, which is mob rule. Medicare for all. You fight mass incarceration and police brutality. Defund the police. College for all. Oh yeah, we got to open those indoctrination camps. When I just told you last week, 25% of colleges are going to close. They want college for all. Yeah. Popular vote for the president. Not state by state. Whoever wins the popular vote. Just go read it. Okay? Your head will explode. These people hate America. But this is good. They're so desperate now that they're being exposed. And, you just got to understand, who they are and that we got to fight them. Here's what Stephen Miller had to say.
That's the communication challenge that we all have together, Sean, which is to explain to the American people that Democrats you grew up with, the Democrats that your mom and dad grew up with, the Democrats that your grandma and grandpa grew up with do not exist anymore at all, not at any level of government. A vote for any Democrat anywhere for any office is empowering a party that wants to strip this country to the bone, to take away our security, our defense, our way of life. Just tonight, Sean, I saw a Democrat member of Congress online defending the Antifa terrorists in Texas who were just jailed for shooting an ICE officer. They shot an ICE officer. They were charged with terrorism, and a Democrat congresswoman was defending the Antifa terrorists.
So, that's it. It's our job to communicate that. And President Trump had an interesting post that is in that article that I showed you. And he said, the communists are finally making their move. He says, I've been waiting and preparing for this for a long time. It's easy to be a communist. All you have to do is say, I give you everything. But that means it's taking away from others that have earned it. Over thousands of years, that ideology has not worked once. The game is on. Enjoy watching President Donald J. Trump. I've been preparing for this for years. Very interesting. Very interesting. And he's already said that the commie mayor, person supposedly going to win the Washington, D.C. mayor's seat. He said, maybe we're going to take back D.C. D.C. was never had a mayor. It was run by Congress. D.C. is not a state. It's where our federal government exists. He's saying, maybe we'll take that back. He's going to fight this, but you and I have to fight this, right? Now, I will say this, not everyone is on board in the Democratic Party. 13 moderate Democrats reject socialism on new promise to America pledge, okay? So this came out, and, I think you can expect this. The 13 Democratic House members and candidates have signed on to a new centrist initiative called Promise to America, explicitly declaring we are capitalists, not socialists, and calling for secure borders, fiscal responsibility, and national pride. The announcement came days after the Democratic Socialist America-backed candidates won several primaries in New York, bringing to light the ongoing tensions inside the Democratic Party as it prepares for the 2026 midterms under President Donald Trump. Under the pledge, you can get the full pledge in the article I'll link on our podcast page, but it says, under growth, competition, and broad prosperity, it states, we are capitalists, not socialists. It calls for an economy that rewards hard work, lower costs, and expands opportunity. The safety, security, and human dignity section reads, we want safety, not lawlessness. It supports secure borders, orderly immigration, and safe communities, meaning police. Other sections commit signers to fiscal discipline. We are responsible, not reckless. Those kind of things. Who signed the pledge? 13 Democrats, a guy, Tom Soji from New York. Let me see if I got the other list of here. A guy from New York, Representative Adam Gray from California, Josh Gottmer from New Jersey, Susie Lee from Nevada, Don Davis from North Carolina, Vincent Gonzalez Jr. from Texas, Laura Gillen from New York, Jane Lee Bynum from Oregon, Christina McDonald-Rivet from Michigan, Maggie Goodlander from New Hampshire, and then three other candidates. It doesn't say what states. But here's the bottom line. Why is this good for us, right? The public split comes as Democrats assess losses in recent cycles and prepare for midterms. Moderates argue that embracing socialist-leaning policies has hurt the party in battleground areas. Progressives counter that bold left-wing ideas mobilize the base and address inequality. Well, inequality, go look at any poll. Inequality ain't at the top of the list for voters anywhere, okay? Even in blue states, okay? That's just commie bullcrap. But here's the bottom line. It destroys their brand. What is a Democrat? If you got these people like Mondami and OAC and Bernie Sanders talking about, popular vote for president, getting rid of the Supreme Court, statehood for D.C., and all that stuff, and then you got these other people running as Democrats saying, I'm for the police and secure borders. Well, what Democrat are you getting? Well, guess what's going to happen? That causes confusion. That's great for us. This is going to gravely damage them in the fall. gravely damage them. All right. So we're for it. We think this is great. And, we can then use it to beat them to death. The key thing is we got to stop funding them. I'll talk about that later in the podcast, make more examples. But the bottom line is, as Mandami's communist, policies get implemented in New York, you got to let them fail. We got to cut them off from the bailouts that the Democrats always try to give them. That's going to be the key. You got to let them fail so everyone sees the truth. We'll see if we have the discipline to do that. All right. So now there was other really big news. There's a lot of big stuff in this podcast. So let's go into this one. SCOTUS rules temporary means temporary. Haitians can be deported from Ohio and other places. This is a huge ruling, and it's a return to common sense and the fact that words mean what they say, that men aren't women, right? That temporary protected status means it's temporary. The damn dumb Dems went to the Supreme Court and actually argued, that temporary actually means permanent. Yeah, and then they just got blown away by Alito. Supreme Court has allowed the Department of Homeland Security's attempt to remove deportation protections for nationals of Haiti and Syria. In a 6-3 decision on June 25th, a majority of the court said federal law barred judicial review of certain legal arguments against the department's determination for temporary protected status. The decision focused on a portion of the Immigration and Naturalization Act that says there is no judicial review of any determination of DHS Secretary with respect to the designation or determination or extension of a designation of a foreign state under this subsection. Lower courts had blocked the department's decision, saying that you can't say they had temporary status and it's now over. That's how stupid that was. Supreme Court said no. Supreme Court held on June 25th that judges could review constitutional arguments like these, but that the ones levied in this case would likely fail. Justice Samuel Alito wrote the majority opinion, while Justice Alina Kagan presented the dissenting view. Bottom line is, Alito said temporary means temporary. And so we're talking 1.3 million illegals they're legal because we gave them temporary status, but now we're going to revoke that. 1.3 million from 17 countries, 300,000 of which are from Haiti, and a bunch of them are in Ohio, are going to be deported. And the Homeland Secretary of Homeland Security said it's going to happen like right now. And I said in my post, just like Obama and Biden flew them in on planes into Ohio in the dead of night and dropped them off in the hundreds, we want the planes to land again and load them up by the hundreds and fly them back to frickin' Haiti. And people are saying, you can't send them to Haiti. It's a crappy country and there's gangs there and stuff. That's not our problem. That's not our problem. And so off you go. Get them the hell out. And so that was huge news. And then we got another huge win by the Border Patrol, who you just don't hear anything else. They don't even talk about the fact that for 13 consecutive months, there's been 0 releases on the border. 405,171 illegal immigrants aboard in fiscal year 2025 compared to nearly 1.69 million in 2024, but none of them are getting in. Border Patrol released 0 illegal immigrants in the United States at the southwest border for the 13th straight month in May. Last month, the Border Patrol apprehended almost 10,000 people trying to break in. They all got sent back. Okay? And so that's what we voted for. And the Supreme Court helped us because they also had a ruling this week that says in a 6-3 decision, justices greenlit a metering policy devised under the Obama administration and expanded during President Trump's first term, under which Customs and Border Protection agents posted on bridges between Mexico and U.S. turned back many asylum seekers. Basically, what they said is, if you came to the border, we would confront you before you cross the border to see if you had any claims for asylum. And if not, turn you back. Well, the lefties went to court and said that if you approach the border you're in essence in the United States. Again, perverting language. It's just not common sense to do what? To break the law, to ideologically implement your will against the American people whose representatives made the law saying you can't come in. The divided Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals panel ruled in 2024 that asylum seekers approaching an authorized border crossing are considered to be arriving in the United States under federal law, entitling them to legal protections even if their applications are initially turned down. But Justice Sam Alito, writing for all the court's conservatives, said the law doesn't require U.S. officials to accept asylum applications from those who approach the border but don't actually cross over it. We hold that an alien who is standing in Mexico does not arrive in the United States by attempting and failing to set foot in this country. Duh! What a common sense thing. And what happened is, in a part of that ruling, Justice Thomas then said, the other thing important about this ruling is that it made clear that illegals do not have standing in the U.S. They don't have the rights of citizens. They never have, but the left has sold that lie and used it to bring millions into our nation, right? Millions of people who don't love our country will not assimilate, but they'll vote Democrat if the Democrats allow them to steal our money through Medicare, hospice, every other fraud, SNAP programs you can get. We're going to talk more about that later, right? It's what Jesse Waters said about New York. And I put in a quote that I did in that story, that the Democrats in the Biden administration trusted the Marxists who told them, if you import all these illegals into the United States and help them vote illegally, you'll turn red states blue. But instead, what they did is they turned blue states and blue cities into Marxist cities, and they ate the Democrats. They ate the Democrats. That's what always happens with the Marxists. They're liars. The Islamists are liars. Their culture is to lie. They have no morals, no values. Okay? So that's what happened. So then, the next big thing this week was President Trump just did something beautiful. Okay? This article, he said, save your leverage. Trump cancels bill signing. Well, what happened? Well, the House and the Senate just bizarrely passed this housing bill that was supposed to help lower the cost of housing. And the tell that told us this was nonsense was that Elizabeth Warren was one of the sponsors. Okay? And it was supposedly going to keep Wall Street from buying homes and then use them as rentals so that, people could then buy the homes instead of Wall Street. It was bogus. All right? So they both passed it. And I had the article ready to say that Trump signed it, except he didn't. Is this the art of the deal, or perhaps a little push to get the Senate back on the side of the White House's biggest domestic policy priority? In a rare bipartisan moment, Congress overwhelmingly passed a new housing bill and sent it to Donald Trump this week. Trump had indicated he would sign the bill while being unhappy that more effort had not gone into the Save America Act, a collection of election policies that includes the highly popular voter ID requirement for federal elections. The bill itself supports Trump's midterm messaging on affordability, and White House have been promoting the signing ceremony until they didn't, until that morning. That is, when Trump suddenly reversed course. He won't sign any legislation, he declared on Truth Social, until Congress passes the election reform package. Today's housing news conference and signing is hereby canceled until such time as we pass the desperately needed Save America Act. I consider it to be a national emergency to sign this act. I thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay? He then went to the Senate and met with the senators and said, I'm not signing anything until you pass the Save America Act. And then he went after Murkowski and he went after, the holdouts, Tillis and those guys, and said, you got to get this done. And then Byron Donalds, who's in the House and is running for governor of Florida, and I think he's going to win, he just went nuclear. Listen to this.
The Senate sucks. I'm just going to come out and say it. They suck. This is not hard. 80% of the American people want the Save America Act to pass. Not 80% of Republicans, 80% of the American people. And the only organization that refused to act is the United States Senate. Everybody else is saying, this is common sense. We should do common sense things. Let's make sure only Americans are voting in our elections. Makes sense, right? Let's protect the franchise of the American people. Let's make sure that people who are sent to Washington are being voted on by Americans. Who the American people choose is up to them, but we have a responsibility to secure that franchise and to secure that process for the American people. And what is happening in the U.S. Senate is laziness, and quite frankly, it's disgusting. What? The Senate Democrats don't want to have voter ID in America. Why? Because they want to maintain their power. Senate Republicans don't want to do the right thing and actually have a true filibuster on the floor and debate the matter on the floor, because it would take them away from their precious meetings that they have to conduct. I'm sorry. They have a responsibility to open up the Senate floor and debate this issue in front of the American people. I agree with Chairman Harris 1,000%. I want to hear what Chuck Schumer has to say on the floor in full debate about why he opposes this measure. I want to hear what Elizabeth Warren has to say about why she would oppose this measure. I want her to tell the people of Massachusetts why she believes that the people of Massachusetts should not have to show a photo ID in order to vote in a federal election in the United States of America.
Yeah. We want to know that. All of us want to know that, right? You want to know that. I want to know that. So I think that was harsh, wasn't it? Senate sucks. Yeah, it does. But he's still being too kind. Because, folks, let's just be clear. The Democrats don't want it because Chuck Schumer, and it's on our podcast page for you. It's always in this week's agenda. There's two links. One says that Jeffries doesn't want ICE at the polls because they know illegals are voting for them, okay? And that Schumer says if they pass the Save America Act, 25 million people will be thrown off the voter rolls. Not 25 million citizens. He never says citizens. How much did Donald Trump win the 2024 election by? 11 million? He's telling you that at least 25 million are illegals, ruining our nation, putting us in a situation where we can't pass our agenda because the Dems have like 50% of the House and the Senate. They shouldn't have 30%. They don't have that many votes unless they steal the elections. And we're going to be talking about that in a second. Do you understand? The Republicans don't want to pass it because they're in on the deal. That's the reason, not because they got to go to fundraising meetings, which has been put up over and over. Oh, they're so busy raising money because their elections are coming up. Shut up. They're in the deal. All this money, we're going to talk about USAID and the money that gets taken from our tax dollars that goes to these NGOs, the Republicans are getting that money too. Their donors are getting that money too. They don't want fair elections because we can't throw them out of office. This is the crisis you and I are in. We are supposed to be a representative republic, but we're not. Because if you can't pass, if neither party can pass something that 80% of Americans want, who the hell are they representing? Not you and me. Even Democrat majorities want this, and no Democrats but Fetterman will vote for it. And why won't the Republicans? Because they know the elections are rigged, and they don't want to stop it. And they're fighting Donald Trump. And that's just the God's honest truth, folks. And it puts into question what we're going to do, because they're basically saying your vote doesn't count. That's what they're saying. We know your vote doesn't count and we're not going to fix it. And then we had in Ohio. This is what I'm trying to say to you guys. It's not just the Senate. It's all over. In Ohio, listen to this story.
Morning, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine has vetoed a controversial bill that would have required voters to provide photo ID when casting an absentee ballot. Governor DeWine says the bill would have created an additional burden for Ohioans and that it doesn't add any safety measures. In a statement, DeWine said in part, requiring a photo ID for mail-in ballots, quote, does not provide election officials with any opportunity to verify if the ID picture matches the face of the voter and thereby serves as no additional verification of the voter's true identity, end quote.
That's just garbage. That's just nonsense. Mike DeWine has always been a Democrat. He's run as a Republican because that's how he could win. But whether he was in the Senate, we threw him out of the U.S. Senate because he went against conservative values. Okay? And so here he is saying, basically it was our Save America Act in Ohio. You're going to have to do a mail-in ballot. You're going to have to upload your driver's license to a website or include a photocopy of it with your mail-in ballot. Well, guess what, Governor? It'd be intrusive, right? And it wouldn't give you any more verification. Well, on my driver's license, I have to sign it. What's the signature on the absentee ballot? Does it match? Right? How much harder is it for the people to cheat? It's all about stopping cheating. This is outrageous. And then here's what's more outrageous. Will the supermajority Ohio Senate and Ohio House come back into session to override that veto? I'm being told no. No. Supermajorities that we elected of Republicans. They're not Republicans. They're rhinos. They're rhinos. They hate us. They hate the American people. They despise us because they love stealing our money and spending it on their friends. And so I posted this video. I put it out to you. You need to watch it, share it. I'm going to play the whole thing here because it's so important. But it's under this story on our website at WeThePeopleConvention.org, end of the GOP. This is what Glenn Beck had to say.
On a podcast about a week ago, Tucker Carlson was on a podcast, and here is what he said on the podcast.
I would not support the Republican Party. There's no chance I would support the Republican Party. I'm not going to support the Democratic Party. I don't know what I'm going to do. But at this point, how could I or any American voter support a political party that's not loyal to the United States, that puts the interests of a foreign country above those of its own citizens? It's not possible to vote for people like that, and I'm not going to. And I think I voted Republican my entire life. I worked at Fox News, CNN, right. MSNBC. I've been a consistent defender for 35 years of the Republican Party. I mean, very consistent defender. But there's no defending this because it's immoral, and it's exactly the opposite of what a political party in a democracy is charged with doing, which is representing its own voters, its own citizens, its own nation. And they're not doing that. So no, I'm out. And if I'm out, then I think a lot of other people are out.
Okay. So let me just take what he's saying. If I am out, then I think a lot of other people are out. That's the really important part. And you can think about what you want about Tucker Carlson. I'm not going to canonize him. I'm also not going to bury him on this. That's for others to take on if they want to. I'm not going to get into the mud. If he's building a third option, which he didn't say he was, but if he is, or recommending a third option, then I'd like to know what that third option is. And we'll take that because I'd like to know what his political solution is to holding back tyranny besides Israel bad, Iran and Russia not so bad. MAGA, everybody's saying this is a split of MAGA. MAGA was born out of the Tea Party, disaffection with both parties. But pragmatism ultimately delivered Trump via the GOP vehicle. It was working the way it was supposed to work. So let's just look at him saying, I cannot and will not vote for another Republican again. Who hasn't said that as a Republican? Why is this bothering people? I think it's bothering some people because coming from Tucker, a lot of people, and I think rightfully so, are worried about where are your loyalties here. But if we today just deal with the words that he said, I can't vote for, I can't blame him. I genuinely can't, because I understand that. I've said that. I understand the feeling of being asked to keep playing a game with people who have no intention of ever letting you win. Let me talk past you for a second and talk to the people in Washington, okay? Let me talk to them, to the men and women in Washington, D.C. with an R after your name. Stay with me because this concerns you, but this part's for them. I told you this would happen for years. I have said this. I said the day would come when your own people would stop defending you, when their loyalty would run out, when the other side is worse, doesn't work anymore. And you all rolled your eyes. I mean, I had Orrin Hatch say, I'll just do a flag burning amendment and that'll bring them all back. Oh my God. Nope. Now it's real. It's here. Your inaction, or worse, your unwillingness to understand that the days of Paul Ryan are over. I mean, look at the people coming in. They're not like you. They're not. And I'm not sure exactly what MAGA actually is. I know everybody wants to make it about Donald Trump and just being a racist, but that's not what it is. I think MAGA is about common sense things that make us strong as a nation again. Donald Trump and MAGA, he was just the first major candidate that said, we're not done as a nation, and I'm not going to manage the decline. That's what people want. A healthy and common sense driven country that doesn't destroy their faith and their family and their freedoms. That's what they want. Now, before I say another word to Washington, when this happens, when somebody like Tucker walks, when the next one walks, and there will be a next one, people are going to come and say, circle the wagons. You got to defend the party. No, now's not the time. The stakes are too high. Hold the line. If we can just get the White House and the Senate and the House and a supermajority, don't rush to defend the GOP. Don't do it. Not because you owe them, or the other side anything. You don't. But because every time you defend them for free, they teach you that betrayal is survivable, that they can ignore you and keep you. The only language a comfortable incumbent understands is the sound of the door closing behind a voter who's done. Yes, we have to stop the authoritarian and crazy left. Yes. But we need to find the Republicans or whatever that stand for something, not just to burn it down, not to go, Jews bad, Russia good. Washington, listen to me carefully. I'm trying to help you, and almost no one around you is. You're not going to survive this. I don't mean a tough cycle coming your way. I mean you are building with your own hands a movement aimed directly at you, and you deserve it. And there's exactly one way to take the power out of a movement like that. Actually, there's a couple of ways. First of all, you don't outspend it. You don't out-message it. Cornyn just outspent his challenger nearly 9-1 in Texas, and the voters retired him anyway. 30 years of seniority gone in a single night. Money didn't save the establishment in Texas, and it's not going to save you either. Now, there are two ways that I can think of you take the steam out of a movement where people are like, I'm leaving the party. The first one is the obvious one that every politician in power will jump to immediately, and that's silence the people who are saying it. That makes you a fascist, an authoritarian. And I know people on the left are trying it, and I'm sure people on the right will try it, and you'll lose, but so will the Republic. The other way to go is to simply remove the reason it exists. And the only way to do that is to start listening to the people who sent you there, and then actually do the thing they sent you to do. That's it. That's the secret in the sauce. Listen and respond. Be a mirror to what your own voters are telling you instead of a wall. I want the GOP to win because I don't want to start a whole new thing. And it's just, I don't want a third party. God, look at France. I want you to win. America needs you to win, but not who you are. not as who you are. I don't want any of that. What I'm telling you right now is I'm describing the natural consequences of you ignoring the voter. So let me give you a test. This is a simple one, okay? It'll cost you nothing except courage. Put the SAVE Act on the floor. Do it. Do it. Proof of citizenship to register to vote in a federal election. Do it. That's the whole thing. It's not a 50-50 issue you get to hide behind. Roughly 7 in 10 Americans support it. Independents support it. Half of Democrats support it. And among Republican voters, your voters, the ones whose name are on your name is on their yard signs, it's not even a question. It's a settled matter. So put it up. You don't even need it to pass. I pray that it does. But all we need really is a roll call. I want the vote recorded. I want every name on the board lit up green or red. That way the whole country can see it. Because when something has 70% of a nation behind it, 70 plus people among the people who elected you, it's complicated. It's not complicated. There's no nuance here. It's really simple. Did you vote for what your people said you should vote for or not? And that's the real reason. That's the real reason why it never comes to a vote. Not because they'd lose, but because you'd be seen.
Yeah. This is serious. I think you know it's serious. This is a fight we must win. President Trump is going all in, right? You got to pass the Save America Act. Do we have a representative republic, or are we ruled by unnamed oligarchs, donors, lobbyists? I don't know. Not us. If you won't do that, why should we vote? Our vote doesn't count. And I'm going to give you an example of that here in just a few seconds. I sent that video to Vivek Ramaswamy, his running mate Rob McCauley, Matt Huffman, the Ohio House leader, Alex Tarafino, the GOP chairman in Ohio, and Bernie Moreno. I said, Glenn Beck is talking to you. It's not that we're going to come out and vote for the Democrats. We're just not going to come out. I just told you 7% of the people turn out in the supposedly huge, Marxist win in the Democratic New York congressional primary. Even the left isn't going to turn out. And then they say, oh, the money. A friend of mine said, they're going to win because the Republicans now, for the first time, in like 20 years, Donald Trump has raised so much freaking money that every Republican has way more money than the Democrats. So they're confident they're going to win. And I keep saying to them, you understand. Yeah, you're going to put all the propaganda out. You're going to tell us all the things that we know aren't true about both candidates, okay? But that isn't going to make us come to vote. What's going to make us come to vote is getting what we want. You're not giving us what we want. You're just looking us in the face and saying, F you. Well, F you, F-O. You're going to find out in November that you brought this on yourselves. And don't be surprised if there's not a Ross Perot type thing, somebody who runs as an independent in 2028, because we're sick of it. On the left, on the right, America is sick of it. The Democrats kept talking about a democracy. It's not a democracy. It's a representative republic. But it relies on one thing. Valid elections. And we don't have them. We don't have them. But Trump, he ain't giving up, man. He's fighting tooth and nail. And we appreciate that. This was great this week. United States Postal Service won't deliver ballots in states that refuse to fork over mail-in voter info under proposed rule. This is the thing I talked to you about where Donald Trump, put out a brilliant thing that said, we're going to give states from the Homeland Security, the Social Security Administration, the database of everyone in their state who's an American citizen. It's up to them to clean their rolls to prevent illegals from voting. But we're going to give that list to the post office. And the post office is only going to deliver people to people who are on that list. So the Democrats can mail the ballots. They ain't going to be delivered. Oh, well, that's in court. Okay. But on the Hill, the head of the Postmaster General David Steiner indicated that under the proposed rule, if a state declines to provide the federal government with its absentee voter list, the Postal Service will not mail ballots for those states. U.S. Postmaster General David Steiner indicated to Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee during a Wednesday hearing that under this rule, if states decline to turn over to furnish federal government with its absentee voter list, they would not mail them. Peters asked Steiner whether under the proposal, the U.S. would mail ballots for a state that refuses, and he said no. All that does, Senator, is make sure that we match the ballots that a state believes they're sending out to what actually gets sent out. It's just common sense. If you're not a citizen, you shouldn't even be able to get a ballot. That's going to help in a big way. We're going to see how the courts rule, but this is coming. But what are we fighting? What is the Save America Act for? What is really going on? 2 examples, all right? This one will blow your mind. Woman recounts visit to California ballot counting center. Okay? Listen to what she has to say. I'll post this story and you can share it and read it. The Los Angeles mayor primary election raised an eyebrow or two from voters and onlookers alike. This is California, after all. What do you expect besides just blatant cheating? While incumbent Democrat Mayor Karen Bass secured her spot on the ballot for the city's general election in November, Republican Spencer Pratt was not so fortunate. Pratt lost out the second-place spot needed to advance over Los Angeles City Council and Marxist Rithina Rahman, a member of Democrat Socialists of America. Right? Another rigged election. The story of Pratt's defeat unfortunately sounds all too familiar with positive results early on, only for mail-in ballots for Rahman to come in just when they were needed. Right? Pratt's winning, and then it just fades away. Right? It's not just mere suspicion that something was off. One woman working in a ballot processing center spoke out on social media platform X about what she personally witnessed. Jennifer Callahan made an X post with a few important notes. First, she said, signatures only need to be 40% accurate. This is setting the machines, this is the setting that the machines in LA County are set at, the ASV settings. Say 40%. Not 50%, not 70%. How about 100% accurate? If the signature is not really true, but it's there, they're okay. The last 2 drops disproportionately support Rahman. Are these coming from specific neighborhoods since there's such an anomaly? Or are the neighborhoods pretty spread out that you can count from on a given day, she asked another worker. The answer was, we're not sure. We don't know why this one neighborhood all these ballots came to support the Marxist, right? Things get ridiculous from here, as workers admitted there was no way of knowing who actually cast a vote through a mail-in ballot. But in Ohio, right, Governor DeWine is going to veto our giving you a photo ID issue, right? Okay? It says, if you're unable to sign, now get this, you have to sign the ballot under their law. You can make a mark like a dot or a slash instead of signing. A witness then signs below your dot or slash. I asked them how they verify these signatures. Turns out they simply don't. Well, you must check the witness's signatures, right? No, we don't. So you can basically, so what if I stole a ballot, made a dash by the person's name, and signed my name? You shouldn't do that, but in theory it would be counted, they said. How many of these marked ballots get in per election? We don't know. We don't count them. This is literally happening. In other words, election workers have no idea who's casting a mail-in ballot. What a joke. So what happened in California is that as you and I and True the Vote and everybody else has exposed their cheating, they have passed laws in California to basically make cheating legal, right? Now, that still doesn't make it a fair election. And I think the Department of Justice has to come in and bring down the hammer. But basically, they're changing the rules to basically say we can count whatever we want. We can count it for as long as we want. And we won't agree to anything that'll stop that. There was talk after the elections in the mayor's race in California that you should not be able on election night, no results should be announced until the count is final. Why don't they do that? Why don't we do that all around the country? What? You think you have a right to know that when the polls closed, the vote was this, and now here's another update? Why do you do that? It's only one reason to do that. So you know how many votes you need to manufacture to win. If they didn't announce the vote until it was over, you would see totally different elections, folks. They're fighting that. The left's fighting that. Okay? So I'll go one more thing here and we wrap it up because this was good news. Voting machine company settles $1.3 billion defamation suit against Mike Lindell. Dominion Voting Systems, which has sold last year to a former GOP election official and is now called Liberty Vote, said it agreed to a confidential agreement, settlement, and has dropped the lawsuit. What they agreed to is that they each pay their own legal costs. This is a big win for Mike Lindell, who, by the way, is winning in the polls in the governor's race in Minnesota. Mike Lindell, my pillow, right, who spent $20 million of his own dollars to fight this lawsuit. To do what? To protect your election integrity. Well, on our website, I'm going to link to the document that Mike Lindell released when this settlement was released the other day. And it says, Election Crime Bureau releases landmark evidence dossier, the 2020 election, an attack upon U.S. critical infrastructure. The Election Crime Bureau, which is one of Lindell's organizations, today released a comprehensive, fully cited investigative report, the 2020 election, an attack upon U.S. critical infrastructure, documenting 10 coordinated attack vectors against America's election infrastructure in the 2020 general election. The report compiles more than 825 distinct findings, supported by over 2,517 citations drawn from court records, government documents, sworn testimony, and technical forensics. Full documentation is available at electionscrimebureau.com evidence. I will link to that. You can download the entire 905-page report that documents clear examples of election theft in our country in 2020. This ain't over, kids. We're going to fight this. We're going to prove it was stolen, and the people who are responsible are going to pay consequences. But most of all, we're going to move towards fair elections, which is what we must do, right? That's what we have to have. We need the Supreme Court. In the next week, they usually announce all their things by the end of June that they're voting on in this session. We need Election Day to be Election Day. Okay? That will be huge if we can get it. All right. Good news for Mike Lindell. Congratulations to him, a great patriot. And I hope you guys in Minnesota are getting involved with his campaign, because wouldn't that be great to make him the next governor of Minnesota? All right, we're going to take a short break after this first half of the podcast, and we sure appreciate you joining us. We hope you learned a lot, and then we got a lot more to talk about in the second half of the podcast. You've been listening to the We the People Convention Weekly News and Opinion podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski, and we'll be back after these short messages. The We the People Convention News and Opinion radio program is paid for by donors like you. You can donate to the We the People Convention and support our cause by going to wethepeopleconvention.org or by sending your check in any amount to We the People Convention, P.O. Box 6211, Akron, Ohio 44312. When you're playing a video, including our podcast, you'll see this little cloud button. And if you click it, it'll actually download the video to your hard disk. And this works on our podcast page as well. If you're playing our podcast, and it's going to be loud, so I won't play it for much, but there's our podcast playing, and you can see this little, download button. Okay. The other thing you got to notice on our podcast page is that there's a link here where you can send me a message about this podcast. Hey, it was great. Hey, I didn't like it. What, something was wrong, or here's a correction, that kind of thing. You can use that link. And then these are the stories that I covered in this particular podcast. And you'll see there's links that go to the stories, to the articles that I used in reporting on that. So you can click on that. You'll also see that you can sign up for our emails and text messages, but you can also watch our podcast on Roku TV and on Amazon Fire TV. And these are the instructions for doing that. So this is all on our podcast page, right on the front page where the yellow button was. If you click there, this is our podcast page. These are the instructions for watching on Roku TV or Amazon Fire. And I watch our podcast on TV. It just feels more comfortable. So you can do that. We're also on Rumble. If you go to Rumble, you should join Rumble. And it's Tom Z at WTPC. You'll see our podcast there. So you can get us a lot of different ways, including on Apple iTunes. And then this is an audio version of our podcast. If you click here, it'll just play the audio of the podcast. It will not, show you the video. So people can, listen to that while they're jogging or, working out, working in the yard, or just relaxing and just want to listen to the audio and not watch the video. And again, this is available on phone, on your iPad, on your laptop, on your computer, any way you want. And you can share this, whatever you see. If you're on a page that you really like, and you see an article that you think, geez, I've got to share this article, with someone in my family. You can send them an email by clicking on the little envelope. You can post it on Parler or MeWe. If you click on this, you get all kinds of options, where you can put it on Twitter or Facebook, whatever, which we don't support, but you can do whatever you want. So we ask that you share what you see on our We the People Convention site, and that you get more people to look at it, because that's the whole idea here, to help educate people, inform them. And then, as I said before, Link, we're not just about talk, we're about action. And in my podcast every week, which is published every Saturday. So if the new podcast usually comes out every Saturday. And in that podcast, I will ask you to do certain things that will help protect and defend your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. So that's the We the People Convention website. Come back often, use it to be informed, and share it with others. Thanks a lot. All right, and we're back for the second half of our podcast, and we're glad you're with us. I do want to say that I noticed that the Glenn Beck video was out of sync with the audio, but I will link that on our podcast page. And if you go to wethepeopleconvention.org in the video section, you'll see that Glenn Beck video, and it won't do that. So you can share that with people and it'll be in sync. Okay. Also, remember, on our podcast page, every page we have, every article, there's these share buttons that show up on your browser, whether it's on the phone or on your computer, where you can email or text the link to that page to anyone you want. So be sure to share those things, okay? Because, everyone needs to hear that Glenn Beck statement. And you should send that to your representative, like I did, and say, Glenn Beck's talking to you, and I agree with Glenn Beck. You got to deliver. And then, for those of you who are new to the podcast, we said at the beginning, we appreciate our donors, but everyone can't give. What's most important for all of you watching this podcast is that you share it with others so they can take action, okay, to protect and defend our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. So what do I mean? I just gave you a whole bunch of stuff about the SAVE Act. We have to have it. What are you doing to fight for it? Did you write to your senator? Did you call him? Oh, the Senate, they went home. They took another 2-week vacation because they don't want to vote on the SAVE Act. Confront them in person, in your state, at the parade, at the 4th of July celebration, at the state fair. I don't care where it is. Go to their office. All the Senate candidates have more than one office in your state. Have you gone to the office in person and said, I'm here? You don't have to threaten people. You can be civil. But you're here to say, listen, there's no excuse for you not voting for the SAFE Act. No excuse. I demand that you vote for it, because if you don't, why should I vote for you? That's just what you have to tell them. Why should I vote at all when you know they're rigging the elections and you're letting them? You, Senator, are letting them. You tell their staff. You drive them crazy. You call them, you write them, you fight to protect and defend our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. Because if we don't win that fight, if we can't have fair elections, we're going to lose in November, and we're going to lose our country. It's that simple. That's what this is all about. That's why you watch this podcast. Okay? All right. Let's go. We're all in this together. This isn't about being passive. We're active. We're participants. We're players in the game. We're not just watching the game. That's what we do at the We the People Convention. We help protect and defend our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity so we can live a better life, so our children and our grandchildren can live a better life, so that we can make America great again. It doesn't happen by itself. It happens because people like you and I do the work to make it happen. All right, so let's get on with the news. It's going to be a little more wide-ranging and global and all that stuff. Obviously, a sad, sad story about Venezuela. I've got this headline, death toll rises, but this morning I checked, and it's not 589 dead, it's 920 dead and 3,300 injured in a weirdest thing ever, where there were 2 earthquakes within 39 seconds of each other. So there was a 7.2 magnitude earthquake, and then 39 seconds later, a 7.5 magnitude earthquake. And folks, on the Richter scale, which is what that means, the difference between 7.2 and 7.5 isn't like a little bit, it's like a lot. So buildings collapsed. It's a disaster. President Trump has responded. We're sending rescue teams and things trying to help, but that's a big hit for Venezuela. And I ask you to pray for them. Pray for the victims and their families, because, wow, that's just devastating. And we were very, very sad to see that happen. Very sad. Okay, this story, I think, is really important for you to get and to share. Something weird keeps happening now that Trump neutered USAID. Okay? Now, those of you who've been with me for 17 years have heard me say a million times, how do you defeat the left? You stop giving them our money, because everything the left did has been financed with your stolen tax dollars. And we're seeing that in spades with the fraud, right? We're seeing that in spades. And I've said to you, our entire $38 trillion going on $39 trillion national debt is all fraud. When I did the AI thing about the federal budget and said, based on the Constitution and the responsibilities of the federal government, what part of our $6.7 trillion annual budget should be spent? Only $2 trillion for what the federal government's supposed to do. All the rest is being stolen from you by the leftists and the Republicans, right? Under the guise of the starving people, the homeless, the elderly. We need to help these rural communities. Bullcrap. It's all being stolen. And now I'm going to give you proof, because we always bring receipts on this show. Okay? Following the Trump administration's aggressive restructuring of the U.S. Agency for International Development, a striking pattern emerged across Latin America. Left-wing governments, long dominant in several countries, suddenly stopped winning elections. Wow, really? Center-right and conservative presidential candidates have swept to victory in Bolivia, Chile, Honduras, Costa Rica, Peru, and Colombia since Trump ordered the cancellation of the bulk of USAID's programs. Well, it's normal to see some political pendulum swing. The speed and uniformity of the recent shift coincide with President Donald Trump's neutering USAID's democracy and governance funding apparatus, raised uncomfortable questions. One day, On day one of Trump's second term, he signed an executive order pausing most foreign assistance as a first shot across the bow. USAID eventually ceased independent operations and was effectively absorbed under the State Department. Secretary of State Marco Rubio oversaw the cancellation of approximately 83% of USAID programs, which were worth tens of billions of dollars. After a 6-week review, we're officially canceling 83% of these programs. The 520 contracts that were now canceled spent tens of billions of dollars in ways that did not serve and in some cases even harmed the core national interests of the United States. These were commie programs. The whole, in Europe, in South America, in Southeast Asia, all the efforts by the left were paid for with our tax dollars that they stole for us, and Republicans helped them, voted for it, knew it was happening, didn't stop it. Get it? Okay? A substantial portion of these new canceled contracts fell under the Democracy, Human Rights, and Governance portfolio. These initiatives funded election support, legislative strengthening, local government reforms, anti-corruption efforts, independent media, civil society capacity building, and human rights advocacy. In short, this funding often helps prop up left-leaning socialist agendas in foreign countries. USAID spends millions propping up the Marxist ideology of diversity, equity, and inclusion, the unfair and divisive transgender orthodoxy, and the climate alarmist movement, O'Neill said, adding, some of the program grants arguably undermine America's standing in the world. For instance, USAID awarded a roughly $2 million cooperative agreement in 2024 to Association Lamba in Guatemala to help strengthen so-called gender-affirming healthcare. So what do you think countries around the world thought of America when we're coming into their country? Many of them were Christian and pushing, you don't get the money unless you do this. What do you think they thought of us? They hated us because we were destroying their culture. Your money, my money, was stolen by the American left and the global left because they knew how to work the system. Now, Donald Trump's in charge because of you and I and our efforts. And their system ain't working anymore, is it? They're losing everywhere. I said it to you. There's the proof. You defeat the left by taking our money away from them. You want some more proof? Okay. Watch this little video clip.
Donald Trump claims Hungarian-American billionaire George Soros is responsible for interfering in the political landscape of many countries. The account claims that Soros used a hefty $260 million from USAID to spread chaos, change governments, and pursue personal gain in countries such as India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Ukraine. Now, this comes as the Trump administration continues to freeze USAID's budget, describing its initiatives as misaligned with American interests and accusing them of destabilizing global peace.
Oh, many ideas, but look, he's done a great job. Look at all the fraud that he's found in this USAID. It's a disaster. What the people, radical left lunatics, they have things that nobody would have even believed. The whole thing with $100 million spent on you know what, with money going to all sorts of groups that shouldn't deserve to get any money. With the money, I'd like to see what the kickbacks are.
So before leaving office, Democrats sent George Soros $260 million. And now, during midterms, George Soros is their mega donor. He has already spent about $103 million during midterms. So Democrats are literally sending George Soros our tax dollars, and he is sending it back to them as campaign donations and paying for their agenda. This is literally textbook money laundering.
Do you need more receipts? You need any more proof? You won't recognize our country once we finish this. Once we pass the SAVE Act, get election day as election day, make sure that the only people that can vote are U.S. citizens, documented, okay? And you and I get to actually have our votes counted and not discounted by illegals. The country changes. You won't believe the policies we will get. We will have majorities in the Senate where we'll have 60 votes all the time to pass what they campaigned on and we wanted. The House, we will have 40, 50, 60 seat majorities in the House. That's the reality. When we stop the cheating in the census, right? When you stop counting illegals in the census that dictates how many congressional seats they get. Do you understand? Your and my entire life, the left has rigged everything to illegitimately gain power over us. And until you and I gave up everything in 2016 to improbably elect Donald Trump and then suffered through his learning curve in the first term where he trusted the Republicans and the Democrats nearly killed him and put him in prison for 100 years. And now we fought back again, gave him another chance, and he's done it. He's doing it. It's amazing. And thank Stephen Miller, Russ Vought, Mike Davis from Article 3. I don't know who they all were, but the Heritage Foundation, Project 2024, who in the 4 years of a Biden administration, the reign of terror, where they were putting us literally in prison and killing us, literally, what happened? They got the memo. They understood if we take their money away, they can't fight and win. They understood who the hell is the real enemy. It's the communists from China and the Marxists, and it's the Islamists. And now we're fighting them. You should take a lot of pride in that because you made it possible. But now you and I have to carry it through to end it. That's how you make America great again, greater than it's ever been. Because we're not a democracy. We're a representative republic, and we need two things: fair elections and equal justice under the law. We've got neither right now, but we're moving closer. And this fall is when we got to make it happen. And the way you make it happen is to get the Senate to pass the SAVE Act. And that's what you've got to be working on relentlessly. There is no is the answer. There is no is the answer. That's what we do. We fight to protect our individual liberty, freedom, and prosperity. Okay? Now, I want to talk to you about the World Cup because I'm sure most of you guys don't care a bit about soccer. It was not part of our upbringing. We didn't play soccer. And soccer came around when our kids started in school and stuff. And our kids played, recreational soccer, and our daughter played in high school. But it's just not, anything we're familiar with. But now you got to recognize what a brilliant move this was by Donald Trump. And let me show you this slide and read this to you, okay? Because the bottom line was no one is giving credit to Donald Trump that he's due for bringing the World Cups to the U.S. He did this in his first term, and he also got us the Olympics in 2028. This is how you show the world what freedom and liberty looks like and how you make America great again. He's fighting for the FIFA World Cup in his first term. I'm like, yeah, that's nice, but what do I care? Oh, baby. What Donald Trump knew that I didn't understand, and many of you didn't understand, is millions of people would come here and see that America is great. Well, look at this next slide, okay? Remember when American liberals and Euro socialists told us to boycott the World Cup because of Trump? Remember when these same idiots claimed nobody would come and ticket sales would suck? We just set the world record for attendance for the FIFA World Cup. 3.6 million soccer fans to date, and the thing isn't even half over. It's going to set a record that'll never be broken. It's amazing. And it's awesome to see these people from Europe and South America and Asia, from Japan, from all over the globe, from Saudi Arabia and whatever, going to Kansas City, Missouri. going to, cities all around the United States and seeing them for what they are. And, the World Cup has undergone decades of anti-American propaganda. America is pretty awesome. We all knew that. And the patriotism of Americans is a testament to how great this country is, because there are forces in this world who spend night and day billions and billions of dollars and endless hours of manpower to convince both people within and without the United States that the United States is hell on earth, that we suck, don't you know? But all it took was an internationally beloved sport to sweep all that away in a matter of days. Decade after decades of anti-American propaganda just tossed into the trash as nations from all over the globe converged stateside and experienced the actual wonder of the United States of America. A German soccer fan named Freddie walked into a Waffle House at 1 a.m., ordered a hash brown bowl, and gave it a perfect score. Since then, 7 million people have seen his post. In just a few days, he asked more than 400,000 followers for driving across the American South and reacting to what he found, and he's not alone. The 2020 World Cup brought European tourists to our doorstep, and they can't stop talking about the awesome time they are having. A Swedish visitor named Elsa went viral, marveling at ranch dressing and the simple sight of a yellow school bus. A Scottish fan named Sean documented being welcomed to a Texas barbecue and put American mac and cheese near the top of his all-time food list. Another German fan watched a military flyover before a match and admitted in a meme-centric phrasing that the European mind cannot comprehend America. Our stadiums are blowing them away. Everything about America is blowing away. They are blown away by things we enjoy every day without thinking twice. The mountain to beach road trip, fountain drinks the size of a small bucket, the Wendy's menu with more options than some European grocery stores, the bald eagle circling a football stadium holding 90,000 people. For people raised on a steady diet of negative stories about America's decline and division, the real thing is a revelation. As it turns out, the American they've seen in the movies is actually the real deal. Here's the part that shouldn't be overlooked. Everything our new European friends are experiencing is a result of American economic freedom. That's what it's the result of. Buckeye wasn't designed by the government. No central planner mandated 120 gas pumps, freshly made brisket, and home goods section full of affordable, food. It exists because the free markets reward entrepreneurs who serve customers better than the next guy. The road trip from the Great Smoky Mountains to the Gulf of America in a single day is possible because Americans enjoy affordable fuel, open roads, and the freedom to fill up their F-150 Ford truck without asking anyone's permission. Okay? So I'm going to play this video because you can see these things online, and they'll bring tears to your eyes because they're so genuine. But I wanted to play this clip from this one Canadian woman.
So many of you reached out after my last video that I had to say this one more time. The media has been lying to you about America, and the World Cup just proved it. For years, European and Canadians have been fed the same narrative. America is dangerous. Americans are ignorant. The culture is shallow. The food will kill you. And people believed it. Why? Because they saw it on the news. They read it online. They never actually went. Then the World Cup came, and millions of people who had never set foot in the US suddenly showed up. And you know what they found? Friendly people, incredible energy, stadiums that blew their minds, hospitality they didn't even expect. Video after video of Europeans and Canadians saying, I had no idea, I was completely wrong, this is nothing like what I was told. And that's exactly the problem. The media doesn't profit from you having a good experience. It profits from fear, division, outrage. A Canadian family having the time of their life in Texas doesn't get clicks, A crime story does. So that's all you ever see. That's all you ever hear. And slowly, without even realizing it, your entire worldwide view gets shaped by people who want you to be afraid. And look, in my opinion, the World Cup didn't just bring football to America. It accidentally broke the most powerful propaganda machine in the world because people finally went and saw it for themselves. So stop letting a screen decide what you think about a place. Go experience it, because I promise you the truth is always different from what they're selling you. Always.
There you go. Talk about common sense. How brilliant was it of Donald Trump, the master marketer, to use the World Cup to entice people from, I don't know how many countries, dozens at least, if not more, to come to the United States, experience it themselves, and then what? They're going to go back home. They're going to tell everybody. They're going to show them their pictures, their videos. Their stories will be legendary. And you know what will happen? Their friends will say, well, I think we should vacation there. I want to go there. My God, Trump is amazing. He is unique, folks. Nobody else understands it at the depth. I tell you guys all the time, he's playing 4D chess. This is an example. And then, bam, the 2028 Olympics are coming here, and millions more people are coming, and billions will be watching. To see what? America as it really is. The truth. To meet you personally. So here's an ask. Again, we've got to take action. Send these videos to the people in your life who think America sucks. Just keep sending them. You can get them on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, X. They're all over. You can send that one. I'll put it on our podcast page. Okay? They're all over. Send that to the people in your life who thinks America sucks, because they are wrong. And it maybe helps to have someone they wouldn't expect tell them they're wrong, like that woman from Canada. How's that for an ask? Will you do that? Second ask of the show. Let's get her done. Okay, so let's move on. Lots of things, that are really important, okay? DOJ charges 450 defendants with $6.5 billion in theft of Medicaid and hospice tax dollars. That's what we're talking about. That's what we want, okay? This is awesome. Justice Department announced on June 23rd that it has charged 455 defendants with various health fraud schemes totaling more than $6.5 billion. The charges unveiled in a press conference in Washington are against defendants for a variety of schemes in what officials called record-setting action against fraud. One example cited by officials was an $89 million health care fraud scheme where a man was accused of billing insurers for medically unnecessary cardiovascular tests involving college athletes. $89 million. The man then allegedly rubber-stamped the results as normal without reviewing them. President Donald Trump signed an executive order in March creating the task force to eliminate fraud, which he chaired by Vice President J.D. Vance, and has promised to target rampant fraud. And here they are. Andrew Ferguson, chairman of the Federal Trade Commission, said that 5 years ago, Medicare was paying out less than $1 billion for skin substitute via allografts. I don't know what an allograft is. Some of you probably do. In 2025, the payments had increased almost $15 billion. Okay? So that's an insane big increase that said that we're riddled with fraud. Ferguson cited a case in Nevada, one case in Nevada, where a nurse practitioner allegedly billed Medicaid for nearly $1 billion in skin substitute autografts. Ferguson said the nurse practitioner was performing the autografts on the elderly, vulnerable people in hospices and nursing homes, and then submitting the claims. She was using human beings, American citizens, as living piggy banks. The government seized $865,000 in necklaces and a $500,000 Ferrari that the nurse practitioner bought with the fraudulent earnings. So she's going to jail. We got most of the money back. But now remember what I keep telling you, and you've got to keep messaging anyone elected office. It's not enough to find the fraud. You have to cut the money from the budget because that money wasn't necessary. The $1 billion she got, you cut that. You cut $1 billion from that program. That's what our elected officials aren't getting because you know what? They loved having your money. They love taking your money to spend. We got to stop that, okay? But anyway, that's just a couple examples. You can read the story on our website and do share it. because it's powerful. It's powerful. This story I almost covered last week, and then I didn't, and then I wish I would have. Trump says 6 are arrested, 7 cited over reflecting pool damage. Now, this is just amazing. I get the New York Times morning email and almost throw up every day. I got to do it before breakfast so I don't throw up. But just to know what they're thinking, what they're doing. I mean, what a rag. But anyway, they had a thing in their thing about how Donald Trump has spent all this money, $20 billion, on the ballroom, on the arch he wants to do, fixing the reflecting pool, doing the thing where he's going to put 250 statues of American heroes, up this new garden he wants to build. And I'm thinking, why are you against beautifying our nation's capital on our 250th anniversary? Not a mention of that. Not a mention of that. Oh, but the left is going to go damage the reflecting pool because of Trump, as if that is mentally sane. President Trump said 6 people have been arrested and 7 others have been cited over allegedly causing damage to the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. Trump said in a June 23rd Truth Social post that a 350-foot gash was made in the lining. It must be like a rubberized lining in the pool. The president went on to say that the damage was purposeful and criminally done, and somebody had to work very hard, probably in the dark of night, to create the damage. Let's see. Trump alleged on a June 20th post that vandals destroyed the grass around the pool and suggested that someone poured corrosive and destructive chemicals into the pool. And so they're going after these people. Here's the part that you got to understand. This is where the cultural war plays out. You can disagree with people, but the fact that anyone in this country thinks that because I disagree with you, I can destroy your property, that I can destroy government property, that is a form of protest. That's not protest. That's illegal criminal activity. They need to go to prison. I want to see their pictures. I want them to get serious sentences. Now, in Washington, D.C., I don't know if we can get that. I don't know how you can't. When you do damage, they should have to pay for the repairs, right? But this has to change. That's not protest. You can't say, I'm for algae. I want a slimy green reflecting pool. You don't get to say that. But that's what's happening. And that shows you the mental illness in our world that we have allowed to become brought in by the communist left through our schools, through our colleges, through indoctrination. That's what we're fighting. And you fight it with truth, with facts, okay? And you fight it by enforcing the law. So we were all loving this, baby. Antifa thugs, leader of group convicted in Antifa-inspired attack on Texas ICE facility, handed 100-year sentence. Here's their ugly pictures. Antifa members, 100 years, 70 years, 50 years, 50 years, 50 years, 30 years. These Antifa thugs are going to prison. Finally. Thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you, FBI. 8 people were found guilty of terrorism-related charges earlier this year for a 2025 attack on an ICE detention center in Alvarado, Texas, learned their punishment on Tuesday. One member of the group, offender as a group leader, was sentenced to a century in prison. U.S. Attorney's Office in the Northern District of Texas said on Monday that sentencing to the defendants would happen Tuesday morning. The verdicts handed down in March came as the defendants stood accused of a July 4th, 25 plot a year ago, targeting the Prairie Land ICE Detention Center following weeks of testimony from investigators, law enforcement, and cooperating witnesses. They basically shot an ICE agent in the neck. Fortunately, he did not die. They tried to kill him. The court ruled accordingly in Texas. They're going to prison. The September 25th, the Trump administration designated Antifa as a domestic terror group. However, the designation did not create new criminal charges. Instead, it directed federal agencies to focus more resources on investigating Antifa-related activity. And they're doing that. They charged people in Minneapolis, some of the Antifa members. They're charging them across the country. Critics of the move argue that Antifa, short for anti-fascist, is an ideology, don't you know, not an actual group with an organized leadership structure and membership. Subscribing to a specific ideology, they say, is not a crime. Yeah, but Attacking ICE agents in Minneapolis is a crime. Attacking ICE agents in New Jersey is a crime. Shooting ICE agents in Texas is a crime, and a jury just proved it. Okay? That's how you change the culture. You implement the law. Equal justice under the law. They got what they deserved. After years of them getting nothing but Kamala Harris asking for bail money to let them out after they burned Minneapolis to the ground. Yeah, that's over. You bet. We did that. You and I did that. This is a scandal that you got to know about because it's really sick and sad, but, it just gets lost. This is how you know the Biden-era fentanyl scandal is bad, because Democrats are complaining. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham from New Mexico responded to the Associated Press and Albuquerque Journal reports detailing that the Drug Enforcement Administration under Biden allowed just under 2 million fentanyl pills to walk into the United States in order to obtain intelligence from 2023 to 25, primarily during the Biden reign. Make no mistake, the DEA knew people would die if these pills made it into New Mexico communities, and the agency let it happen anyway, the governor said. Grisham said in a statement, adding there are no words to describe how reckless and dangerous these decisions were by the Biden DOJ, by Mayorkas and those guys. They did it intentionally. Remember Eric Holder? Yeah, Obama's wingman, who was the attorney general, and the gun running, where they let guns from America go to Mexican cartels to prove that your Second Amendment needs to be taken away, and they use those guns to shoot U.S. Border Patrol agents or something like that. Same thing here, Biden, years later. So when Jessie Waters says they're coming to hurt you, the Marxists, the communists want to kill you, yeah, they did. The rest, Grisham said in a statement, there are no words to describe how reckless these decisions were. The results, hundreds of New Mexican parents buried their kids. Hundreds of New Mexico kids grew up without stable parents, all while the federal government stood by, she continued. If the justification for letting these pills flood our communities was that it would somehow make New Mexico safer down the road through bigger eventual busts, the results say otherwise. New Mexico now leads the nation in the increase in overdose deaths for the second straight year. There's the proof. The Democrat said she's asking New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres to look into whether any federal agents broke state laws when they allowed lethal drugs to remain on the streets, and to prosecute anyone responsible, regardless of whether or not they're federal agents. Yes. When do we start to charge the people who worked in the Biden administration who did these things, who let the borders open when they knew it was wrong? I talked to you about this before. Through our own, the AP report noted that DEA agent whistleblower David Howell said that we poisoned our community to make legal cases. Through our own willful blindness, he said, we don't really know what happened to the drugs, but 100% got killed. 100% they got people killed, he added. One particular scandal involving roughly 74,000 pills that were sent to a trailer park in the state, that Town Hall previously reported. New Mexico House Republican posted that it happened because of years of bad decisions, soft on crime policies, sanctuary policies, an open border in the Biden administration, and in Santa Fe, Democrats repeatedly blocking tougher penalties for fentanyl traffickers, stronger sentences for repeat offenders, and reforms to hold violent criminals accountable, the Republican continued. The Democrats want this. The Marxists want this. This is how you destroy capitalism. This is how you destroy the United States. That's the plan. Go back to the story about, the Democratic Socialism of America. Download the flyer that tells you what their plan is. They ain't hiding anymore. They're telling you. And that's what the results are. This story just, again, truth. Just exposing the lies that you've been told, and unfortunately, so many people accepted. State's first transgender rep sentenced to 33 years for child sex crimes. Look at this ugly SOB, this horrible human being. Stacey Marie Lawton, born Barry Charles Longton, a former New Hampshire state legislator and the first open transgender elected for a United States state legislature, was sentenced to 33 years in prison for child exploitation. Longton, a trans-identified male, was found guilty of receiving explicit images of children from Lindsay Grove, a former daycare worker at Creative Minds Early Learning Center in Massachusetts, and Lawton's former partner. So he's trans and he's dating another guy, right? Tuesday, over 10,000 explicit messages were shared between the two. Groves was given 22 years in prison. This guy was given 33 years in prison. Let's see here. Okay, so specifically, Groves had taken explicit images of children while at a daycare job and sent the pictures to Lawton, who had previously expressed sexual interest in children. The explicit images, now get this, included children as young as 3 years old, according to reports. Grove made the children at the daycare center expose their genitals, taking pictures of them during bathroom breaks and diaper changes. Initially withdrawing due to a felony connection, Lawton went on to serve in the New Hampshire legislature between 2020 and 22, even though there were rumors about he's trans. People in New Hampshire, you voted for this person. The fact that he said, I'm trans, you needed to translate in your mind means he's mentally ill. He has gender dysphoria. You don't elect mentally ill people to handle your business and your money. But you did. You did. You should be ashamed. You should talk about it. You should share this story. All your members in New Hampshire, share this story and say, what the hell were we thinking? You did this to yourself because of a lie. My goodness gracious. And then again, this thing. Leftist judge scraps SNAP junk food rules, dealing blow to make America healthy again, right? What happens here? So again, Make America Healthy movement, RFK Jr.'s base helped Trump win, and he's doing things to help make our food healthier. I'm going to tell you about another one at the end of the podcast. A federal judge on Monday scrapped a set of state pilot programs intended to restrict the use of Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, money to purchase unhealthy foods. U.S. District Judge Amy Bergman Jackson, an Obama appointee, surprise, surprise, wrote in her decision that Agriculture Secretary Brock Rollins, who oversees SNAP program, misapplied federal law in approving requests from states to allow them to impose limits on what participants can buy with funds from the nation's largest food aid program. Her ruling applies to Colorado, Iowa, Nebraska, Tennessee, and West Virginia. With her solicitation and approval of the pilot projects in this case, the Secretary waived not just a mere administrative or technical obstacle, but the very definition of food as was laid down by Congress. So basically, she's saying Congress said food can be hurtful to children, and we should pay for that. Hopefully, this is going to get appealed. But again, where's the common sense? What is the base? Why do you have a law in the first place? Supposedly to benefit the people that are subject to the law. It is documented. RFK has turned the food pyramid upside down because it was all a lie and put together by big agriculture and big chemical companies who paid off the government to kill you, to make you sick. We're trying to stop it. And this judge says, oh, you can't decide what healthy food is. It's called science, my dear, and you can decide. And we need to decide, and we need to stop poisoning our children. And then remember last week, I asked you to call your senators and say, make sure they don't give Meta immunity from these state cases where kids were damaged by social media, and now Meta's trying to get it put into this act, okay, that Congress is considering, this Child Act that's supposed to protect children. Meta wants immunity from state charges. I asked you to call. Did you call last week? Well, you're going to call your senators this week. You're going to go see your senators this week about the SAVE Act. Make sure you mention this other act. I got to remember what it's in our this week's action items list, okay? YouTube settles with Florida teen alleging social media addiction harms the head of a California trial. Okay. Google's YouTube said a lawsuit brought by a 16-year-old Florida boy who says the platform's features played a role in his social media addiction and harmed his mental health. The settlement was reached ahead of a second California state court trial set to start on July 27th. That trial will reveal similar allegations against Meta, Instagram, Snapchat, ByteDance, TikTok, etc. California State court filing portrayed the plaintiff, identified as RKC, as first using social media at the age of 8. He says he's become addicted, lost sleep, and developed depression and anxiety. Terms of the agreement between YouTube and the teenager were not disclosed. Okay? It's happening. There's thousands of these cases. Big tech, social media needs to pay. They harmed your and my children and didn't tell us that they were doing it. They knew they were doing it. Go watch the movie The Social Dilemma on Netflix, where the people who created the software that makes you scroll incessantly and addicts your dopamine and all that with dopamine so that you can't stop, okay? Go watch The Social Dilemma movie. They admit the people who built this say we don't allow our kids to use it because we know what we did to your kids. Got it? Don't tell me we shouldn't have laws restricting 16-year-olds and under from using social media. Don't tell me that. We've had that argument, and you keep writing me. Go ahead, keep writing me. I don't want to give my age. Why? You have to give your age to buy alcohol, to buy cigarettes, to get a driver's license. Oh, but not for social media? Why? This is why. To save the lives of our children and our future of our country. This is AI-powered cyber attacks on advanced systems maybe months away. This is a serious warning, and I'm trying to bring it to your attention because we've been talking about AI. I've been trying to give you videos that help you understand what's happening with AI and why it's important for you to understand it, okay, and understand the questions about it. But this is one of the serious things. Advanced artificial intelligence models may be able to breach and overwhelm the cybersecurity defenses of governments and business worldwide in a matter of months, a partnership of intelligence agencies warned on June 22nd. The Five Eyes Intelligence Oversight and Review Council, which consists of the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, issued a joint statement that raises alarms over the threat of frontier AI models. Frontier AI models are anticipated to exceed current industry expectations, fundamentally transforming both offensive and defensive cyber capabilities. The timeline is not years, it is months. Months, the statement said. They warned world leaders and businesses to assess the risks of frontier AI to respond quickly and prevent malicious actors from exploiting software breaches that could impact national defense. Boards and executives must assume cyber resilience is in place, should ensure cyber resilience is in place and works under pressure. It's not enough to have controls. Leaders must be confident those controls will perform during the real incident. So get ready. There's going to be these attacks run by AI that are magnitudes larger than the denial of access attacks and other attacks, the phishing attacks that we've seen. You got to have the defense in place, and it's got to be ready to happen when the attacks happen. That's the warning, okay? Monday's statement from the organization did not reference any particular firms, but they're talking mostly about Anthropic's Mythos. In the unusual joint statement comes a little more than a week after Trump's administration ordered Anthropic to ban foreign nationals worldwide from accessing their Claude 5, Fable 5, and Mythos 5 frontier models due to the difficulty determining which users would fit the broad category of being, enemies of the state. So stay tuned. Things are going to get crazy, okay? And we don't know how it's going to play out. But obviously the White House is on it, and these defense agencies are on it. So hopefully they're up to the task. But, just understand months. By the end of this year, all kinds of things could happen. Your bank could go down, okay? The airlines, ticketing things could go down, whatever. All kinds of stuff. All right, this is good news. Department of Energy announces American nuclear supply chain loan. This is huge because we have killed nuclear power in this country because of a stupid movie, The China Syndrome, starring Kami Jane Fonda, where they lied to us about the dangers of nuclear reactors. Remember, no one died at 3 Mile Island. No one. Okay? Well, we shut down the nuclear industry. Well, now we're starting up, and that's really good. The U.S. Department of Energy Office of Energy Dominance Financing issued a conditional loan commitment to finance the purchase of long lead time items needed to rebuild America's commercial nuclear supply chain. The $17.5 billion American nuclear supply chain loans will help finance 5 eligible projects sponsored by utilities and energy companies nationwide to accelerate the deployment of 10 large-scale commercial nuclear reactors across the United States by up to 3 years. Okay, so we're going to accelerate nuclear by up to 3 years. The project makes a major step toward advancing President Trump's executive order reinvigorating the nuclear industrial base by supporting the objectives of having 10 new large nuclear reactors with complete designs under construction by 2030. That's still too late. 2030. They need to be built by 2030, but they can't. Basically, they use these Westinghouse units, which are the only large-scale licensed large-scale advanced commercial reactors operating in the United States today. Long lead time items are complex components of a nuclear power plant that require the longest time to manufacture and deliver. So what they needed is stability of financing. In other words, they needed to say, the money is there to build these plants, start making the parts so they could do it, okay? Each of the 10 reactors will generate 1.1 gigawatts of power, with a combined power output from all 10 reactors providing enough electricity to power nearly 10 million American households. That's about 10% of all American households, and that's an increase. So this is a good thing because we need to have more energy. The whole future depends on energy, and we've artificially, ideologically been shooting ourselves in the foot because why? The Communist Chinese and the Marxists knew they couldn't defeat the capitalism or Western civilization if they didn't defeat energy. And that's why they're trying to get you to stop data centers. And I talked enough about that last week. I'm not going to go down there again. Go to PortageCountyTeaParty.com if you want to learn more about that. Okay? Couple more posts, and then we'll wrap up the podcast. Mitch McConnell's office released a statement after latest hospitalization. Senator Mitch McConnell's office released a statement on Monday after he was hospitalized last Sunday morning. The 84-year-old Kentucky senator was rushed to the hospital last week and was receiving excellent care. However, it's unclear why he's there. On Monday, McConnell's office said the Kentucky senator will not be voting this week. Senator McConnell is still working closely with his staff on Senate business and Kentucky matters as he continues his recovery. However, he will not be voting this week. What a disgrace. What a disgrace all of you are. Okay, this is Joe Biden all over again. How narcissistic are you? How mentally ill and morally corrupt are you that you're 84 years old, you're sick, and you're not going to recover, pal. You're going to die, okay? And you won't give up. You won't give up your seat. Why? Because too many people you took money from depend on your vote. Not because of the American people, not for Kentucky. For greed. For greed. Oh, yeah, don't forget, his wife is a Chinese national whose father gave them a $26 million wedding gift. And he's like the head of China's shipbuilding industry. Never forget that, Commie Mitch. And your staff is a disgrace. You're holding up the Save America Act. You're the reason that the Tea Party was investigated by the Obama IRS. Okay? This guy's scum. Have some decency. Step aside. And speaking of people without any decency who didn't step aside but are now getting their comeuppance, John Bolton pleads guilty to illegally retaining classified information. This guy is the biggest scumbag there is. Former National Security Advisor, Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton pleaded guilty on June 26 to illegally retaining classified information. He worked for Reagan and both Bushes before Trump in the first term. He's a total neocon. He's all about war. He just wants to spend your money to get enriched and enrich all the people in the defense industry. Bolton has entered a plea in federal court in Maryland. He pleaded guilty to a single count of illegally retaining classified information. He is scheduled for sentencing on October 28th by U.S. District Judge Theodore Chung. Under the plea agreement, prosecutors recommend that any prison sentence not exceed 5 years, although the judge is not required to follow that recommendation. If Chung imposes a prison term longer than 5 years or a fine exceeding $2.25 million, Bolton has the option to withdraw his guilty plea. Bolton, 77, was indicted on October 16, 2025 for allegedly unauthorized sharing and retention of classified information. He was charged with 18 counts under the Federal Espionage Act, according to the federal indictment filed in the U.S. District Court of Maryland. He pleaded guilty to one thing. He was guilty of all of them. He stole classified documents to advance his career, to write a book, to get a job on CNN, okay, to trash Trump. This guy is scum. He's 77 years old. 5-year sentence would take it to 82. I pray he gets jail time. He deserves jail time. I'm afraid he won't get it. And the $2.25 million, yeah, where's that money going to come from? Yeah, probably not from John Bolton, probably from you and I, money that they stole over the years. Anyway, we got one. I said that when this happened. We got one. More to come. Bring on Comey, bring on McCabe, Strzok, Page. Let's get the rest of them, okay? A couple more stories here. Trump signs regenerative agriculture order to boost food supply. This is a really good story because most of you don't even know what regenerative farming is. Basically, it's kind of farming without chemicals. It's farming that not only protects the soil, but improves the soil through their methods. And what Trump is doing with RFK Jr. and other people's help is bringing it into the spotlight as something we want to promote. And this order promotes that. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on June 25th to promote regenerative agriculture practices in an effort to support farmers and boost the nation's food supply security. Regenerative agriculture is a holistic farming approach designed to restore degraded soils. Trump said in his order that such practices are strengthening soil health, lower input costs, improve chemical efficiency to reduce overall use, improve farm profitability, maintain yields, increase market value, expand access to new markets, and strengthen rural economic centers. That's a big thing for one bill to do. The order directs the Department of Agriculture, the Health and Human Services Department, and Environmental Protection Agencies to research the effect of communal exposure to chemicals on the food supplies in order to reduce them. How can we do natural organic things instead of chemical-based things? The order was announced the same day that Trump hosted a dinner for farmers in the White House Rose Garden, during which the president revealed that he had asked Congress to approve a supplemental funding bill with $11 billion in relief for farmers. And this is where we conservatives kind of swerve off and go, President Trump, man, we're giving the farmers all kinds of subsidies. And I know you're stopping regulations and you're doing this to try to help them, but you gave them like $14 billion at the start of the year and now another $11 billion. And I know what he's doing. This is for the vote in November. And we love our farmers too. But man, you got to be able to make a profit on farming. We shouldn't subsidize it. That's called socialism, which I'm pretty sure we're all against. Anyway, that was interesting that he did that, okay? But we're for regenerative farming. Regenerative farming. We want to see that encouraged, and we're glad he's doing that. Okay, so we're going to wrap up the podcast about the 250th anniversary. July 4th is right around the corner. I'm really excited. I hope you're excited. Trump opens Great American State Fair, celebrating the nation's 250th birthday. The fair, which is the first national exposition of its kind, runs from June 25th to July 10th in the National Mall. So there's every state has a booth there that shows off your state, and then there's all kinds of music and activities and stuff like that. And there were 45,000 people there when Trump opened it up, okay? But this is the thing where all these woke artists wouldn't perform because it's too politicized, and 9 states haven't put up booths because Shapiro from Pennsylvania said it costs too much money, and we couldn't get any businesses in Pennsylvania to support this booth. I call bull crap on that. That's a bold-faced lie. Don't tell me you couldn't get any businesses in Pennsylvania to support a booth showing off Pennsylvania's businesses and culture in Washington, D.C. It's disgusting that they did this. They politicized it. What else are they going to do? But it's going on. And I really wish, like in Ohio, they didn't talk. Our governor, again, we talked about what a rhino he is. He's a Democrat. They didn't talk about, hey, we're going to have this great booth. Ohio's going to commit, and Ohioans should go there. I didn't hear any of that. Let me know if any of you guys heard that in your state. I think this is a great thing, but we didn't promote it very well. But I want to share this video with you, and then you should go. You should try to go to D.C. Trump has spent all this money and effort to make it safe and clean, and now they have this great event. Watch this video.
It is opening day in the nation's capital as America 250 celebrations are in full swing. Correspondent Lucas Tomlinson is live at the National Mall with a look at how all 50 states and our territories, by the way, are being honored this evening. Good evening, Lucas.
Good evening, Shannon. The major event to kickstart the Great American State Fair here on the National Mall was the rodeo, bringing the American West to the nation's capital. What was it like to ride out here with the U.S. Capitol in the background?
Oh, it was incredible. You know, I have to say, no matter how many times I get to carry the American flag, it's always an honor. I think about the men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice for me to live in this incredible country.
Nick Jackson, a professional bull rider from PG County, Maryland, just outside the nation's capital, made a clean ride. The most dangerous 8 seconds in sports, Shannon, they call it. To the delight of spectators, many seeing bull riding for the first time here on the Mall. I asked Nick what it meant to showcase his sport here in the nation's capital.
Man, all I gotta say is it's all a blessing. You know, I've been riding bulls for about 12 years now, and it's been a gift. It's really cool to come out here and, you know, make history riding bulls on the Mall.
And Nick is only 17, so he's been riding since he's been 5. Now, exhibits from all 50 states and 6 territories, including Guam and Puerto Rico, prizes from the Spanish-American War were on display. Crowds enjoying themselves, all free of charge, including riding the Ferris wheel. One Georgia resident who had just graduated high school described what it was like to visit this Great American State Fair.
I love it. 250 years of this amazing country. And so me and all my friends, we were there and we decided that, you know what, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to come see it.
The Great American State Fair will be here on the National Mall through July 10th. Shannon?
All right, we'll be there live for Fox News Sunday this Sunday. Thank you, Lucas.
Yeah, and you should be able to see coverage of it. I know Real America's Voice, was covering, kind of wall to wall, showing the people there. I hope you will go. If you're in the East Coast thing, just go drive in, and it's free, and it's going to be, like he said, a chance of a lifetime. And I hope you're starting to focus on, what you're doing for the 250th anniversary. We've got our banner that we've been promoting. Happy birthday, America, 250th. How are you going to celebrate all that we, the people, have achieved? Because it's our birthday. We did this. We built this country. It's not just Donald Trump. It's not the government. It's us. Our country. Look at the banner. It's got all these inventions, the locomotive, the Model T, the telephone, the computer, the iPhone, the lunar lander, all that stuff. And and thank you to you guys who purchased those. We've got them up in Alaska. We've got them in Missouri. We've got them around the country, some here in Ohio. We've got a big one here at our house. And boy, for Father's Day, there had to be 100 families fishing on the lake that we're on. And they all got to see that banner. Make it a point to celebrate the greatness of this country and share those videos from those World Cup fans, right? Because that's what it's all about. So, as we wrap up our podcast, it's just important for me to remind you, please tell people about this podcast. Share it, okay? We're on Rumble, we're on Roku, we're on Prime, Amazon Prime. We have our own channel, WTPC. We're on YouTube. We're at our podcast. And then send me questions or comments or ideas for stories. info@wethepeopleconvention.org. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know if you disagree with some of the things I said. But go visit your senator's office in your state this week, right? If they're on vacation, find them, confront them, pass the SAVE Act, all right? Don't give big tech any kind of immunity from prosecution for hurting our children, right? That's important. And then cut the fraud. If they find fraud, you can't just stop it. You got to cut the money from the budget. That's what we want. That's common sense. Anyway, I hope you're getting geared up. We will do a podcast next Saturday, okay, for the holiday. I've done that, and I think it'd be kind of fun to do that. So we'll do a podcast next Saturday for 4th of July, and we hope to see you then. Until then, I hope you're happy and healthy and that you're enjoying being an American, and that maybe you're meeting some of these FIFA World Cup people and sharing a beer with them. I don't know if you've been following the stories about the Scots literally drank Boston out of beer, and now they're in Florida, and like the beer companies are shipping barges full of beer. They drink so much beer. So anyway, some funny stories like that. But just enjoy America. Enjoy being America. That's what we fight for. But we're going to be happy warriors. But we've got to win the fight to do what? Restore fair elections and get equal justice under the law. That's what we need. All right? That's what we're fighting for. All right. Until next week, I hope you're happy and healthy. I hope things go well for you. If you're ill, I hope you start to recover. Okay? We'll keep you guys in our prayers. We thank you so much for following us, for watching this podcast, for visiting our website, for sharing, and for donating. Can't thank you enough. It's been an amazing journey for 17 years. We really appreciate it. Till next week, we'll see you. You've been watching the We the People Convention weekly news and opinion podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless our great country.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets trembling, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land under the fray, and the home of the brave. Because we are the brave. Yes, we are the brave.